Hello, I'm Richard Ridge for Broadway World. Arielle Jacobs is back on Broadway, where she's receiving glowing notices for her portrayal of Imelda Marcos in the David Byrne and Fatboy Slim immersive musical, Here Lies Love. And we dropped by her dressing room here at the Broadway Theater to chat about what it's like being a part of this fascinating production. I am thrilled to be sitting with you here in your beautiful dressing room here at the Broadway Theater.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
You look gorgeous. Look at you.
Look, we match. I can't believe this.
We do match. Blue and pink, right?
Yeah. You look great.
The last time I spoke to you was just a few nights ago at your opening night. How magical was that for you?
That was the most incredible day of my life.
Yeah.
I've never experienced, first of all, just getting to be so glamorous, like on the red carpet of your Broadway show. But then having so many celebrities there, right? We had her, we had Joe Coy, and then I'm standing on this red carpet next to Lea Salonga. It was insane. And then the after party at Lincoln Center, of all places, was so magical.
Let's talk about that night. What do you remember? Is it a blur?
Yeah, so it was really fun because I remember getting ready for the red carpet. I remember getting ready for the show. And then I remember coming off stage after the show. I don't remember the show at all. It just felt like it went by so fast. And I think that means it was a really good show, because if you're just so in the performance that you don't really remember what happened, then that's usually a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This show is perfection. You are perfection in it.
Thank you.
I mean, what's it like living in the world that David Byrne and Fatboy Slim has created, this incredible world of Here Lies Love?
I can't even begin to tell you. I feel like every day I get to go through this. I'm time traveling, and the entire audience is time traveling, right? Because I'm playing Imelda Marcos over a 40-year timeline from age 17 to 57. And getting to transform into each and every window of time, because the costumes really take me through not only the decades, but the different levels of from poverty through where she, how glamorous she got. So I feel like I'm getting to live through so many different eras and emotional states, and I'm given so much in terms of the sound and the music from David Byrne and Fatboy Slim. It feels like it's just such a gift, because I get help from everything around me, and it is all around me in this theater, right? It's really amazing.
There's been nothing like this. I mean, David Corrins reconstructed the Broadway theater with the lights and the sound. I mean, everything they've done. I mean, when you heard, when you first walked into the theater, when it was primarily done, what went through your mind?
I couldn't believe it was a Broadway theater.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, sometimes I'm still out there and this is a Broadway theater. And then I take my friends who are backstage after the show, I'll walk them and say, that's where the proscenium is, because you can see the arch. So then you can see where the stage usually ended and the seats began. And it's just mind-blowing, because it doesn't feel like that at all anymore. It just feels like a nightclub. And then at the end of the show, when all the flashing lights, kind of turn into more just normal light, and then the music changes from this disco into this more acoustic vibe, you're like, it's crazy that you're in the same space, because lighting can do so much.
Yeah.
And it affects everything.
Well, let's talk about what this role means to you personally, representation, and just being a part of this, what it means to you.
Yeah, well, this is the very first time I've gotten to play a Filipino character, and I'm getting to do so in a full Filipino cast, which is historic in its own right. And I think what's so special for me personally is getting to fulfill this dream that I feel like my grandfather had when he was born in the Philippines when it was an American colony. So he was raised in thinking that he's an American colony, and he had this bridge, he wanted to get his family to America one day. And he served for the U.S. Army as a Philippine scout in World War II. He recently got a U.S. Congressional Gold Medal at age 94 for his service as a Philippine scout. And, he wanted to get his family here, and then he did. My mom came with her family when she was a teenager from the Philippines. And then now I'm getting to play this character in this Filipino show, telling this important piece of Filipino history. And not only that, but just this year, I started a production company where I am, as an artist, my company name is Sorio Dream, which is my grandfather's name. His name was Giulio Sorio. And I feel like I wanted to have the name of my production company be the fulfillment of his dream because he got me here. And now I'm telling this Filipino story in America, but I'm looking at the Philippines from Broadway stage.
Yeah.
And he was looking at America from the Philippines, and I feel like I'm completing this circle.
Yeah.
And the show is giving me the opportunity to do that.
Okay. The challenges of playing someone like her. I mean, to me, this is like the new Evita. And I mean that in the best way, because you get entertained during the show and you're taught an incredible story.
Yeah.
And it's a scary story because this stuff is still happening around the world and in the Philippines. So I was wondering, you know, that's what I love about creative people, of what they do. I mean, you come to Here Lies Love starting off having a really fabulous time at the disco.
Yeah.
And then you're told this incredible story and you get to see this family and this woman that you get to play. What was it like stepping into her skin?
Okay, well, a lot of people are comparing us to Evita. But
Yeah.
I would say we're more like Lady Macbeth.
Perfect.
If it was a disco.
Yeah.
We are more, it's like a classic story of, you know, this rise to power, getting what happens around you to maintain your power, eventually what happens to your mind state when you're in power. I would say we're more in the Shakespearean classic, you know, this is a very deep piece of history, and and she doesn't get, you know, the happy ending that I'm used to.
Yeah.
But I also think that the challenge of playing Imelda Marcos is realizing that I feel like it's important for myself and for audiences to recognize that I'm not doing an impression of her.
Oh, yeah.
I'm doing an interpretation of how she was perceived. So, and over the course of 4 decades, right? So when she's younger, she's seen as very sweet. Then she's seen as very charismatic and charming as they're on the campaign trails. She's seen as this disco queen who likes to go dancing with all the world leaders. And then she takes more power and more power and more power. They institute martial law. Tens of thousands of people are imprisoned and tortured, and thousands of people are killed so that she and Ferdinand can maintain their position. And people are terrified of her. Yeah. So there's the shift in how people are seeing her, and the audience gets to experience that, which is so cool. Because the audience plays a character. Yeah. They played the character of the Filipino people over these 40 years. And so I'm acting and connecting with them, and they are my scene partner. So every night is different, and every night is changing depending on how this audience is shifting over that time.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that, because people who don't know, the seats have all been taken out. I mean, you walk into a disco when you come into the theater, and people can stand and dance and follow the stage around, and you're doing stuff on stage, on the makeshift stage. Then there's people sitting upstairs, and you've got a stage upstairs.
Yeah, there's stages literally everywhere. So there's people. When people are on the dance floor, they are completely immersed in the story. I'm walking through the audience, I'm touching people, I'm shaking their hands. They are getting to play the role of attending the campaign trails. I'm singing to them at our wedding. They're then eventually become part of a funeral procession. They become protesters at a revolution at the end. So they are in it. They are fully in it. But then the people in the back, in the rear mezzanine, they also are in it, because the stages extend back there too. And there's video screens all around that are projecting actual historic news footage from this time, but there's also live cameras on my face that's projecting what I'm doing on larger screens in the back. So everyone has a front row seat, no matter where you are.
Because I sat right in front, and you're right in our face. Everybody is, because there's that stage there, so it doesn't matter where if you stand and watch the show or you sit, you get an incredible experience coming to this show.
And sometimes I surprise people, because the way that I pop out in different locations, there'll be people who like get startled, because like suddenly I'm standing right next to them, but they didn't know I was coming.
All right, let's talk about working with this cast. What an incredible cast you get to share the stage with.
Such a dream cast. Oh my gosh. I mean, Lea Salonga, of course, I've looked up to her for ages. I get to hear her sing this 11 o'clock number every night. Her dressing room's right next door. But she's also the sweetest person. I mean, was feeling sick a couple weeks ago, and she brought me miso soup.
Yeah.
You know, she's just the most heartwarming person. And Conrad Ricamora, I mean, such a passionate actor. I am constantly blown away when I'm on stage with him because how much presence he brings to every moment and how passionately he is giving like 300% every single night. And it gives me so much to play off of. He's such a fantastic actor. And then Jose, of course, is like a dreamboat. I get to fall in love with him every night. And he's such a legendary Broadway artist. He's done so many shows, and he's got this regality where he just like, everything's under control all the time. And it's so comforting. I love playing opposite him because he's playful as well as just like such a sturdy rock that I just love it. And the entire cast is like, there's like a dozen people almost making their Broadway debuts. And they're all so good. And I'm so excited for the world to see that Filipino artists are as talented as we are. And there's a stereotype that we all have, good singing voices. It's because we grew up with karaoke. Like, we sang for our parents and our family functions growing up. Like, it's just in our blood. So, and the dancing, the Annie B choreography, I mean, you're going to get to see some really sexy and talented, amazing Asian artists.
Okay, and then there's your director, Alex Timbers.
Yeah, Alex.
Like, what makes him such an in-demand director and one of the finest directors to work with?
Can you, you have to ask me?
Yeah.
I mean, the way that Alex Timbers, the way that his mind works and what he sees as possible in a theatrical production is just completely crazy to me. I saw Beetlejuice, loved it. I saw Moulin Rouge and loved it. I saw Rocky, and I was just completely in awe of what happened on that stage. So getting to do this, I'm like, I knew I was in good hands, right? And then also there's just this immense amount of trust because I know that no matter what he puts on the stage and around me is going to just feel larger than life. And it's going to be enhancing the storytelling so much more. And there's also just this incredible trust that I have with him where I know that no matter what he gives me, it's very specific, it's very clear, there's never any question about what he's asking for because he is so specific and clear that it's just like, and it doesn't, the direction that he gives as a director is like, hey, there's this moment, play with it like this. Okay, cool, bye. And then he just lets you play, which is wonderful because it's like, oh, okay, and then you let your own creativity take you where you're gonna go. But there's not like a micromanaging or like it's just like, here's an idea, see if you like it, and then that's it. So as an artist, it's so wonderful because you're just like given this playground, but he's guiding you in a way that you know is gonna lead to the best storytelling possible.
That's why you all look so free creatively up there doing what you do best.
And we just feel supported and like we can just give everything and we're just so connected up there. I feel like everyone in this cast just really lifts each other up and is rooting for each other all the time.
Yeah. You talk about you play her all through these different decades. The clothes by Clint Ramos are stunning.
Thanks, yeah.
Like
I'm so grateful for that.
I mean, you could do like a Vogue fashion shoot in those outfits.
I should, yeah. We should.
Yeah. We should.
We should.
We'll put it out there, Broadway World. But I mean, the first time you saw yourself like in your makeup mirror with the wig and one of the outfits on, like what went through your mind when you didn't see you anymore?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when I really I feel like when I transform into Imelda is the very first time I put on the turno sleeve. You know, the turno, it's like the butterfly sleeves, traditional Filipino dress, right? And when I put those on and then the hair grows, and then suddenly I'm transported and I am back in the Philippines in that time period, and I can just be this big, larger than life person. and every stage of these 4 decades that I get to play Imelda, the hair gets bigger, the clothes get more and more elaborate, more glamorous. It just feels like the elegance level grows, and also the steely quality, which makes sense because Imelda was known as the steel butterfly. So there's this elegance, and then there's this like, don't mess with me.
Yeah.
And I feel it in the costumes. It just helps me so much.
The relevancy of this piece. When I was there the other night, I was like, my gosh, this could have been written yesterday.
I know. Yes.
Which is scary at the same time. But it's also a history lesson, too.
Yeah, it is. And history repeats itself. And this is an entertaining storytelling art form. We are in a theater. We're giving a history lesson. But because history repeats itself, and the most charismatic people are often the ones who get elected. But sometimes when people get elected who don't turn out to be who you thought they were, it's not because that they came across showing their true colors. It's because they were elected because they made you feel that you were special, that they're telling you everything you want to hear. And they are, often seen as the life of the party, as Imelda is in our show. And then eventually you start to see their true colors after they're already in power, and you're like, oh no. And this is happening around the world. It's so relevant to today. And this show is such a pro-democracy piece. I think it's so important, especially right now, because their democracy is absolutely at stake all around the world. There are so many countries around the world that are struggling with how to maintain their democracy, how to maintain hope in the face of oppressive leadership. So this show is so relevant to today. Yeah. It's so important. And I think when people see our show, especially if they don't know what the end of the show is, it just hits even harder.
Yeah. You work so hard in this show. We're in this beautiful dressing room of yours. How early do you like to get to the theater and be in here?
I like to get to that theater about 45 minutes to an hour before.
Okay.
And, set myself up, do my vocal warm-ups, and get myself ready for the transformation to begin, which takes a team of people.
Because you must have to you have so much stamina to get through this show. You all work so hard in this show.
Well, I have 19 costume changes in 90 minutes. And when I'm not on stage, which is 95% of the show I'm on stage, when I'm not on stage, I'm sprinting to a costume change that is the fastest change you can imagine before I'm back on stage. I think I have maybe 10 to 15 seconds of a break in this entire 90-minute show. So it's a big marathon. I'm sprinting a marathon. Does that make sense?
I love that. How many costume changes?
19.
19 in 90 minutes.
Yeah.
You have an incredible dresser.
I do.
Yeah.
Camille is fantastic. Yeah.
So she meets you every which way because you're upstairs, you're downstairs.
And Leslie is also my hair person. She's like changing my hairstyles every single quick change I have.
Yeah.
And it's hard because they're not your typical lace front wigs. It's different than any other show where you could just take off a wig and put on a new wig. No, you are like redoing the hair every time. And it is the hardest track for hair and for costumes, I believe, on Broadway.
Yeah.
At all.
Because it all changes every decade. We see you.
It's so fast.
Yeah.
And it's so it's so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the last thing you do before you hit the stage each night?
I dance. I have a dance party in the wings.
Yeah.
This is this is my thing. I did it in between the lines at second stage. I do it here. I tend to have this, I just feel better when I dance before anything, before going on stage, before sitting down for an interview. I get myself energized. I get myself in a playful, free place where everything feels fun and I can relax and just know that no matter what, if I come from a place of freedom, from playfulness, if I just like am in the present moment, I'm always dancing with somebody. So it's whoever's off stage with me at the time, like, we're having a dance party right now. This is what we're doing.
Well, they're getting you ready. Finally, audiences have such a great time at this show. What do you hope they walk away with?
It is almost time for fight call. Please start heading down to the pit for fight call. Thank you.
Is that you?
No, I'm not in fight call. But it is almost time for the show.
Yeah.
So I hope that audiences walk away from this show feeling energized and feeling alive, feeling inspired by what they saw, but also inspired by the story, because it's a story of hope. By the end of this show, the audience has become part of the People Power Revolution, which was a 4-day peaceful protest that ousted the Marcos regime from the Philippines. And it's a story of inspiration because they were having their democracy taken advantage of and pulled away, and they stood up against it. And I think this show is going to spark a lot of conversation about democracy and leadership, but it's going to get people out there feeling like they can have control over their power, over their destiny. And I think it's a story of hope, and I think people right now need it more than ever.
And they also have a fabulous time here too.
Yeah, and they have a blast.
Listen, thank you for doing this. I know you're going on stage in less than 45 minutes. I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you for doing this.